Okay. This is Bitcoin. And I'm going to go to the daily chart here. This is on the weekly chart. And it's logarithmic. So the distance between the dollars gets smaller and smaller as the price goes up. So I'm going to do two things. I'm switching to the daily chart. So we see it in a daily form. And actually, no, you know what? We want it to fit. No, I'm going to go daily because I want to see the incrementals. And then I'm going to reduce the logarithmic to regular, so it's to scale now, okay? Because that's the thing about logarithmic charts is that they are not to scale. But now it's to scale. And what we're going to do is that we're going to analyze, remember how we know that, history doesn't always repeat itself, but it does rhyme. So I'm going to go back to before 2017, which was when Bitcoin and all the altcoins, that was the first altcoin season, was 2017. Before that, there was actually a Bitcoin season. Right here. And it went from the lows to the highs. Here's where, I got to zoom in a little bit more. Isn't that crazy? We got to go from the lows to the highs. So this was kind of like the first big spike that occurred. This was in May of 2011, where Bitcoin went from a whopping 12 cents, right? Where was this low? 64 cents. And it went up $4,800% to $31.19. Now, what we are going to do, though, is that we're going to go to from the low to the high. So this is where the low was, right in here. There's the low. Or is this it? Before the run. Yeah, that doesn't really count because it just wasn't a thing. So this was a great little spike. It gave us Bitcoin's on the map. But what we're going to do is that we're going to cover from the low, from after that high, we're going to go to this low here. And we're going to measure this distance from here going to the high. And you can see here that's 508 days from going from the low to the high. So we're going to mark this out. And I kind of feel like I got to go back further because there's somewhere I'm going with this. I just didn't go back this far the last time I did this. So 508 days. Okay. Then what happened was this was April 2013, and then we created another low right here. And that was the lowest it was before it took off again. So after going up to, in April of 2013, going up to $266.67, it came back and dropped to the low right there. Now, what's the low before the trend goes back up? Okay, right there. Okay, so then what we're doing is that we are measuring where the market structure is. So that low, that's just the bouncing basketball, and then we created a low before the trend went back up again. That was 86 days. And I'm going to mark it a different color. All right, and then we go up again. So from that low to the next high, which was 2013, December 2013. That is not much, is it? Man, how did that go? I was looking at this over the weekend and I was like, look at that pattern. Where did that go? How does that work? Maybe it was before. Maybe it was where it was before the 2017 big thing. That's okay. We'll go ahead and just plot these out because there is a pattern and we're going to find it. So from the low to the high in this situation, went from that low to the high of 2013, November 2013. Again, this is altcoins weren't even in the picture yet. Bitcoin went up to $1,247, and that happened across 146 days. And then we came back down again to find a low. Right there. Which is the low? That one or this one? $410. And then 2017 hit. Let's just make sure we don't have another. Yep, there it is. Okay, so now, again, this is to scale. That's why it's like now messed up. It doesn't look like we're accomplishing much here. But we're looking for this pattern. This period of time was across 1,056 days. Okay. And I think this is where I started. So from the low before alt season, the first alt season ever, that was 1,056 days. Then we created another low. And that low took 366 days. Yeah, this is where I started the measurements. 366 days to the low. From the high to the low, 366. And again, I'm not even going and like minutely figuring this out. This is an estimate because I'm just quickly plotting it. If I wanted to actually get it, I would pinpoint it right from top to bottom, but we're getting the point here. 366. Then we went to another high in March of 2021. Actually, that was the beginning of alt season, so we're going to go to the end of alt season. November 2021. And that is another period $1,060 days. Very close to the 1056 before. $1,060 days. And then we had a drop down again, created another new low. And that took, to hit that low, 366 days again. The same as before. To the low. 366 days. And then we went upwards and created a new high before market structure got broken again. Remember, we talked about market structure. Oh, look, we were blowing this market structure. We had A, B, C, D, and now we're going back down again. So this from This low here, the run, the trend continued upwards all the way to this high over here. Well, how much was that? From the low to the high, 1,061 days. So again, 1060-ish. Oops. So we've got three is it? No, the two. So from the high to the low, 366 days. And before that, it was 1,056 days for alt season to kick in. 366 days retracement. And then we had 1,060 days, 4 more days. Again, when I did this before, it was... Yeah, well, anyway, I can probably get it even more accurate if I zoom in. But that, 1,060 days-ish. And then a retracement, 366 days on the button. And then again, going up, it matched that 1,060-ish days going up. So to me, the way I look at this is that I think, oh, all right, well, we must be headed back down again for 366 days. So where does that take us? Where does that lead? And this gives us an idea of what we can expect. And the reason why we can expect this, look at that, 366 days. Let's just double check here, 366. That takes us to October of this year. The beginning of October. Where does the low go? Who knows? But we can
potentially
expect
3 months until the next alt season.
Yeah.
If the pattern holds.
If this pattern holds. Again, beforehand there wasn't really an alt season. We can really only say this was the first time alts came on board, because it was 2015, 2016 we saw Ethereum, 2017 came along Cardano, and so this is the period of time where alts came in. That 1,056 days pattern repeated itself here and again here. So that's a third time in a row that it followed the same time frame. We are very well likely to see that 366 day be the retracement period, and we're getting close to the end of that. Now, where is that low? Well, technically market structure is A. So we could be hitting back down to 49,000-ish technically. But at the same time, in the past, the retracements have gone down. This one was 76% down. This one, 81%. So what does that where does that leave us if we were to go down 75 to 80% down here? That's going down into the 30,000s. Market structure for this next low could very well be down in this area here. Now, I am of the mind that we are headed downwards, and here's why. Bitcoin, right now, we're seeing Bitcoin declining because faith in the dollar has been restored. Look, gold, downtrend. Silver, downtrend. But not the US 30. Not the American economy, largely driven by the largest corporations in tech, sure. But even, let's go look at USD CAD, which is the index between the United States dollar and the Canadian dollar. The US dollar, since May, is up 5%. It's done that before, sure, in that period of time. But this indicates faith in that US dollar. Faith in the US dollar is overcoming. We're bumping up against these all-time highs on the Japanese yen. Against the British pound. Over since the end of May, up 3%. Oil still dropping. Again, this gives the international markets the impression that the US dollar is back on the rise. Why? Because when oil becomes cheaper, people have more disposable income. And that increases, the more potential that people can spend, the more the dollar looks healthy.
And yet groceries are still as expensive as they were when the dollar was, or when the oil was high.
Yep. And there is absolutely no reason for this to continue other than they are continuing to manipulate. And we see that because just Dario, let's see if he's got it on his blog here. Yeah, that would be a good read. But on his X, just this morning, he was saying, "Look, guys, he has the receipts showing how the United States, the Federal Reserve, is actually hiding the trouble that the banks are in. That the trouble that the banks are in are exactly what you're saying. Just because we're seeing the oil drop down, just because we're seeing gold and silver drop down, just because we're seeing that renewed faith in the U.S. currency, does not mean things are going better, but that the math that they are putting onto the charts is telling the foreign investors the dollar's going great." Now, if they want to maintain that, they have to get the people to basically give their money up. Which, remember what we talked about last month? How, his name escapes me. Larry Fink was saying, well, just get all of the savings accounts and all the pensions to make sure that AI is in America is the best. This goes down to the tech wars. I don't like it's crazy. Fable comes out, and within a 24-hour period, it gets shut down. And it's funny to me. It's funny because it was only the week before that Anthropic, the developer of Fable, said that there should be stops in place where the government has the ability to halt the development of AI for safety. Sure enough, they were the first. Then they're the first ones to be halted. And since it got released, 4 other models around the world met the same benchmarks that Anthropic gave Mythos, the forbidden model that only 100 trusted institutions in America are allowed to use. And out of that, we have GLM that hit the same benchmarks. And the reason why GLM was able to hit those benchmarks with 5.2 was because Alibaba models were used by we don't know who. Why? Because the Chinese models are things that people can install on their computers with small infrastructure. You don't need 600 gigabytes of RAM to run those models, whereas something like Anthropic, you do. So those inferior models were able to dilute within that 24-hour period of time. Open source models were able to take the basically create inquiries with Fable on how is it that you got so good. Those over 20,000 sessions that were launched to get that information. Excuse me, to get that information. And it was open source models that did it. And so then they sourced it openly, saying, hey, this is how they built Fable. And then a whole bunch of open source models from Japan or some from China emulated it and hit the same benchmarks. Oh, and isn't it funny how in the same week, OpenAI, the creators of ChatGPT, just launched a new coding agent with the same benchmarks as Fable.
So they're all not safe for us to use?
The escalation continues. And the escalation is giving the people that are paying attention to this, you can see how the language patterns are shaping their reflections. So what do I say that? But how do I say that? Why am I saying that? When you look at folks like Nate, no. Because there's a very different perspective from people who have been developing and experimenting with AI for the last 5 years. There's a gentleman that I follow on TikTok who has been in computer programming and software engineering since the 80s, and very grounded perspectives. But when you start looking at the vast majority of the content that is being produced around AI, the language patterns are reflecting the severity of the situation. They are all saying the same thing. There needs to be stops on this. We can't have this run away. And there's two sides to the argument. We can't have this run away where the government has the ability to create a class system. And then the other side is we need to make sure that nefarious actors do not have the capacities with these AIs to hack through things without being a hacker. We need to make sure that doesn't happen. You know what the solution actually is that nobody's talking about? Even Nate doesn't talk about this. Privatizing your data.
So why doesn't Nate talk about it, do you think?
Well, I think it's because I don't think he devalues it. I think what he recognizes is where the industry is moving has so much momentum. It's not like we can stop that. Like no one can sit there and be like, oh, we're going to stop them from doing it. No, they are simply not going to allow their infrastructure investment to go to waste.
Well, that makes sense.
And how is it that they ensure that their agendas are brought forward?
Well, by slowly manipulating the people into the direction in which they desire.
Yes, and when slowly doesn't work?
Oh, well, then they use the sledgehammer and says this is all you can use.
Yes, or you're doing it to save Grandma's life.
Grandma's already dead, honey. So and I'm
there's an emergency.
Enough, so it's all good.
Yes, but there will be an emergency, and that will necessitate.
Bring people to that very easy place of turning off the prefrontal cortex and I'm gonna die. Yeah, eventually. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but you never know. Depends on who's driving.
Yep. So, as this progresses, I anticipate being kind of a war correspondent in this because this has always been about two major things. Number one, it's been about owning the physical body. And more important, the access point to owning the physical body is owning whatever the physical body is able to create, leveraging their platforms, right? So, if, and I'm pointing at the charts because that's where the money is. This is the Dow Jones Industrial Average Index, and right now, the Dow Jones Average Industrial Index is primarily made up of Amazon, Google, Nvidia, Oracle, Palantir, Tesla, SpaceX. SpaceX is not worth that much anymore, but that's because they took all their money. And get this, they didn't invest it in rockets. SpaceX did not invest that money that they got from the public. They did not invest that in, figuring out how to get more seats into the vessel that's going to take us to Mars and save us, right? This is supposed to be a life craft thing,
An
right?
arc.
Yeah, this is supposed to be saving us from the destruction of Earth, and they did not invest it in the infrastructure that would be required to get humans off planet to Mars. No. They took that first swath of money and they invested it in AI video generation. SpaceX.
So we can virtually be saved.
Well, we can at least see virtually that people are being saved. Virtually. It's not like we're going to be virtually saved. No, we're going to see that people are being virtually saved. I was sharing this yesterday with our little group of journalists, and they were just shaking their heads. And they said, so they're investing in making fake videos. And I said, yeah, isn't that something? Isn't there a conspiracy theorist about the moon that has some sort of a parallel there?
It's not fake videos. They're real videos. It's
they're
just
real
the
videos.
Is not reproducible.
Yeah. Yeah. So there we have it. Sounds like the flooring company's over on the other side now.
Oh, maybe they will be getting someone in for July 1st. Yeah. Prove me wrong.
Yeah, 2 days. Come on, guys. So, yeah, that's what's happening. And in fact, I anticipate that we're going to see the emergence of even more open source models, because now there's Kimi K2, there's GLM, there's DeepSeek. DeepSeek has a trillion parameter model. Trillion, the highest parameter model in the world.
That doesn't necessarily make it the best.
Nope.
Right?
Nope, but it does give it power. It goes back to the container. But that having a trillion parameters is a good thing to have. It just, you need to know how to train that model towards what you want, so that it has the ability to parameterize more of your business or more of your objective. Again, doesn't help you if you're not giving it a container. But that these models, with their deep reasoning capacities and their abilities to emulate any other model, I think that we're going to be headed into a race to persistent recursiveness, meaning that the models will just be improving themselves and that people won't have anything to do with their advancement. Where we're going to be reaching a singularity moment where humans are going to be hands off because the machines can make better decisions. Now, we actually see this. I don't know if you saw this, but in the Diary of a CEO.
Not recently.
In a recent show, he was sharing with someone across the table about how when he was using AI, it was in the evening, and the model told him to go to bed. Yeah. told him, said, "You've done enough for the day. You should probably get some sleep." And he said, "No, I'm good." And the model refused.
That's problematic. It's one thing for me to request my model remind me of and keep me on task for things that I tell it to do. But for a model to say, "Oh, Audrey Lynn, you look kind of sleepy." First of all, how the fuck can you see? And you don't get to make that call.
Yeah.
Your algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're tired, algorithm? Okay, great. You don't need that much more electricity. Let me unplug you.
Yeah. All right, let's go over the technical analysis here of the tech companies. We've got Amazon that had its high there on May the 5th. It retraced, coming back down, finding support at looks like about 225. And it's been bouncing back up since that trading day. Google also bouncing up from a low. Audrey. NVIDIA retracing back, finding support. It looks to me like it's finding support at this old resistance from January. Oracle also downwards, not retracing yet. Palantir continuing its downward trend at the moment. We're seeing a very steep inner trend line. Tesla rising up from a low. And I'm just going to bring up SpaceX because and going to the 1 hour chart just so we can see the detail here. Remember, it wasn't even supposed to open at $150, and it did, and immediately, within 3 days, went up 50%. The money was taken and invested in AI video generation, not space exploration, video generation by AI. Specifically, the investment went to xAI, which is it's like as Anthropic is to Claude, xAI is to Grok. So they invested it in Grok. They didn't invest it in space.
I can sort of see them, it being reasonable for them to invest some of that monies into video generation, not AI video generation, but video generation, and then a much more major chunk into the actual get the people to Mars. The video generation is a integrated component for the whole thing.
Yeah.
Not they do show their hand, don't they?
They have to. Otherwise, they could be charged. Right? They have to give disclosure as to what they're doing, but they don't have to do it blatantly. It's blatantly to the public. To the public, they can say whatever they want. It's just Twitter. It's just Facebook. It's nothing that's official. It's all just a great big metaverse of metaverses. And
that reminds me of, I can't remember when it was. It was within the last 6 months or so where somebody came out and said that they were going to do this thing, got a whole bunch of money, and never did the thing. And their reaction or response to the pushback was, we only said we were thinking about it. We didn't say we have done it. That's fucking sorry, but that's slippery. That's gross.
Oh yeah.
I hate lying. Hypocrisy.
Correct. It's the hypocrisy that is draining the entire infrastructure of all integrity. Absolutely. I think I know which one you're talking about. That was between Oracle, Nvidia, and OpenAI when they were talking about all the investment money coming in, and oh, look at the $300 billion has been earmarked, and in fact there was no confirmation of any contract being signed whatsoever. Yeah, same idea. It's like, hey, we're gonna put this meme coin, I mean stock, on the market, and it's going to help us get to Mars. And everyone's like, yay, Elon is starting up a new stock, new company, and publicly is going to IPO and everything, and so we want to put our money in there. It wasn't supposed to open at 150. It did, simply because of the volume of orders, and it shot up only to have that go back down. And in fact, on June 23rd, it went down and below the open price. That is never a good sign. Sits now at just $8 above the open price. $8. What is that? You know, who is it that got the 50% versus who's sitting there thinking to themselves, damn, I should have sold, because now I'm only up 6%. Where did the money go? It didn't go to space, right? It went into video generation. So that tells me that what we're going to see is more of the same. We're going to see more and more companies just coming on board and saying, hey, we're going to do these amazing things. Give us all of your money so that we can do these amazing things. Case in point. Trump did his meme coin 2-3 days before his inauguration. Estimated $80 billion was liquidated out of the people's pockets. He's doing it again. This is the Strategic Water Reserve Framework, with the headline, AI is the thirstiest machine ever built. They've even got fancy little graphics, water droplets that hit the screen. You'll see it. It's amazing. And it's on the Solana network. It's the coin is actually the USWR. It's being launched on an exchange near you, at a next-gen bank near you, July 4th. The idea is that this meme coin is going to, water coin is going to be used to feed AI. The data centers, remember? They got to have all that water for the data centers. They even say right here, look, first sentence, a single conversation with ChatGPT evaporates a water bottle. So just tokenize the water, and everybody will be happy to save America. Remember, this is a patriot thing, right? This is you being a good patriot, investing in Trump's amazing and awesome and phenomenal. And what are some of the other adjectives that he insists on using? The insane. Strategic. Yeah, well, strategic is a good magic word.
The concept, the idea of having a meme coin or something, investments tied to water, makes me think about the, I don't remember who the fellow was within the WHO who said that he thinks that water is not meant to be a human right.
Yeah.
It's like, and then to see something like this coin, which ties up water resources, which I know in some localities, I think Vancouver, Burnaby is one of them, where it's illegal to do what we have done here with collecting rainwater.
Yes. Yeah. And the funny thing is that if you live in a city, you don't have the right to water. A lot of people don't realize that. You have the right to collect it. That's not a problem. But you do not have a right to water itself. That when you're in a city, you're reliant on delivery services to get you the water. Mm. And that's what you have a right to buy it. the delivery. Mm-hmm. If you want to gather water, they're saying in the city, because you are now a resident of that municipality, that you can't be collecting the water because the water is for the city. That's their argument. Now, the reason they can do that is because of the legislation that's in place that everybody thinks has force and effect, and because they don't provide contrary consent to those terms and conditions, it's called implied consent. Because they don't do anything. They just sit there and they whine and moan about all of the tyranny instead of actually doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing. Did you know that by the definitions of I should say definitions, more so by the self-evident truths that are outlined in the Declaration of Independence, because the government has instituted the policies, procedures, implementations, institutions that restrict the people's ability to pursue happiness in whatever way, shape, or form they desire with their self-expression, right? Because those are all the self-evident truths that are out there. That you have the freedom of expression, you have the freedom of commerce, you have the freedom of association. Those are being suppressed right now by the government. And because the people have not abolished the government, they are now guilty of treason against the Republic. The people. It's the same thing up here in Canada, because the Crown told Canadians officially in the Statute of Westminster they didn't want to govern Canada anymore. The Dominion of Canada was actually given to the people. You take care of this. You people govern this. We don't want it anymore. We can't even afford it. We just finished World War I, and we can't afford to handle your baby asses anymore. And so you host constitutional conventions and take care of it from here. And of course, it was the Lunchurian elite that took that documentation and they said, well, we don't want the people to do that because then our power will go away. And so then they wrapped that whole thing with tons of other legislation to get people to be unaware of the fact that they were supposed to host constitutional conventions and form their own governance. But I mean, it's not like it's hidden. This is something that's the work of Doug Force. He has that on themythiscanada.com. You can go there and get all of the information that shows how the Crown publicly told the public, get your shit in order and host constitutional conventions so that you can form your own internationally recognized nation. And the people didn't do anything about it because all they did was that they looked to their fearless leaders for direction. And the fearless leaders wouldn't give it to them because they wanted to make sure that their power stayed intact. And ever since then, Canada has been under what's called a de facto government. De facto meaning it's there, but without force or effect. It's kind of default.
This weekend was good, Paul.
Yeah.
We'll have to chat about it.
Oh, no, go ahead now. Share.
Nope. I can't share it publicly.
Well, I'll end the stream.
Would you like me to pop off?
No, you can stay. I just can't.
I'll stop the YouTube.
I just can't share it to the world, man.
Yeah, okay. I'll stop.